Hovis here at Par 4 Fitness, joined with Andy Scott and Chase Marinell of Andy Scott School of Golf, and we're going to be talking maintaining posture in the backswing, some of the things that these two see on the lesson tee, and some of the things that I see with force plate, K-vests, and the physical causes of why that may happen. So walk us through, Chase, maybe exactly what we're looking at here. So we're set up and we're talking about in the backswing losing posture throughout that position.
Absolutely. So Andy, we usually see the fact that we're kind of getting a little taller out of the on the backswing and losing a lot of our shoulder angles. We see a lot of people on the lesson tee kind of get some very flat shoulder angles, and if you can see how I got a little taller there,
right?
And if the camera was over here as well, you can see how our head would have the ability to travel back, and we don't really want that in the backswing. Andy, what are we looking for more on the lesson tee where we're looking for?
Yeah, so obviously posture is a big key to this. If your posture happens to be, let's just say, out of posture position, we see a lot of overflexed knees. We see a lot of curving in the top portion of the spine, and we see a lot of reaching for the golf ball. And when we get into these poor postures, you're not lining your body up well to turn. So obviously that person's going to have a very difficult time making a backswing and staying within their posture angles. So for me, what I try to really make sure all my clients do is have a nice spine angle, but here's the biggest thing. You need to learn how to bend from your hip sockets, or hip hinge needs to be in there so your arms can hang from your shoulders. As you can see, when Chase is in a good setup, he has very short arms, so he has to tilt a little more than the average person at the address. But you can see how his arms are hanging straight underneath his shoulders, and he doesn't have excess flex in his knees. Now, when you can get somebody in this position, it's going to help, but it's not always going to fix the problem.
Right.
Because they might have some body issues that are preventing them from being able to stabilize a strong backswing
Right.
position.
Perhaps it's something like trail hip, the right hip for a right-handed player is tight. They've only got maybe 15-20 degrees of hip rotation. That's something that they will get restricted on, and they'll have to stand up and they'll lose that shoulder angle. Or say they lack stability out of that hip as well. Maybe the glute's not working as well to stabilize laterally, and then they stand up. Or there's some other movement dysfunction there, that they're moving around something that's become an issue over time. Maybe they're in some pain, or they've had some issues over time that are contributing to that. So on K-vest, usually what we see is this bent forward angle. So if I chase in that angle again, average for normal players is going to be about 40 degrees flexed forward here from the hip up to his head. So as he goes up into his good backswing, that angle is going to turn into about 40 degrees left shoulder lower than his right. So those numbers just switch. Our forward bend at setup turns into side bend at the top. So what Chase was saying is that players may start at 40, but then they get up to the top and they're maybe 20. They lose that angle significantly, maybe 50% even, and that's a big contributing factor. One drill that I like, and we can do this with resistance, without resistance, would be put something 3 to 4 feet in front of you, and then just rotate back and rotate through, and you're pointing the club at that spot.
I love that one.
Back and forth. So it's just something that's easy to, I can grasp that, and it's something visually that I can use to just tell if I'm moving in the right pattern.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people don't realize, a backswing is formulated with rotation, extension, and tilt.
Right.
So it's not just rotation. You just rotated, you'd be over here.
Exactly.
So I think some people have a little misconception of actually what's happening to keep your head pretty still and keep those angles.
Yeah.
If one of those areas, those 3 areas, are physically out of position or weak in an area, you could have some problems.
Right. And that's why I'm always trying to maximize control of mobility, but also the mobility in each of those directions. So Like we go laterally with the side bending as much as we can. We go rotational, and then obviously some of our toe touch and extension tests that we're doing, we're trying to flex and extend, and we're trying to laterally flex and side bend and rotate, because that allows us to get into those motions.
What
If
about-
someone's
Sorry, I have a question for you.
yeah.
What about hamstrings? Do you see a lot of tight hamstrings? Because I feel like when I was playing a lot as a professional, my tendency to get into bad posture was because I felt tight in my hamstrings. So my hamstrings might have been too tight to get into the correct posture.
Yeah,
You
so
see that as well?
yeah, if you're in a situation where you're walking all the time, then those are going to get tight. Or if you're traveling, working at a desk, that's common causes of tight hamstrings. And actually weakened hamstrings as well, because our hip flexors will get tight along with that. And those are a big muscle group, strong muscle group, that will sometimes get so tight that the hamstrings lengthen and they feel tight. So it's that relative relationship between hamstrings and hip flexors that contribute to that. So some stretching hip flexors and strengthening hamstrings can make you feel better.
That's good.
I think another thing that works really well with my clients is they're always going to have some kind of body issues. Is you got to find out what their maximum is, or their maximum rotation or mobility.
Right.
So I call that swinging within their factor.
Right.
And if you can find that, then most of the time you can stay within the boundaries.
Absolutely.
But most people are just trying to hit it harder, further. They think that this is going to be too short.
Right.
So they just simply raise up, because that does make you feel like you're making a bigger swing. But in reality, it's breaking down the whole system of your sequence.
Right, and we did a YouTube video on Know Your Boundaries that you can look up that's related to just that. So some things that are certainly playing a factor in your backswing that can wreak havoc on club position, club face, but also the path that your club's going to take on the downswing too. So some really important things to consider. Thanks for joining us today, guys.
Thanks for having
That
us.
was fun, man.